How many of you, by show of hands, did your RAD from yesterday? The reflection adventure of the day was to reflect on the 3 fundamental fears that all beings have. Can I see, by show of hands? Okay. Our RADs are a way to stay in satsang. You and I are the best students when we are in such an environment. We have viveka, discrimination, vairagya, detachment, shatsambati, discipline, and mumukshutvam, desire for something higher. All these qualifications we have now. When we leave, those D's slowly fade away. So don't leave. Now, legally, you have to leave this area. You all can stay here. But mentally, you never have to leave satsang. The 3 fundamental fears that all beings have. Let's see if you got them. And in no particular order. One of them is death. But reflect on why death is what we fear. What is the opposite of death? Sat, or existence. The second, the unknown. The opposite of the unknown is chit, or awareness. And another one is sorrow, or the opposite, ananda, joy. What you fear is what your nature is not. Dying, not knowing, being sorrowful, because your nature is existence, is awareness, is joy. And that's why I said yesterday, you do not fear public speaking. What you fear is a sorrow attached to public speaking. If you weren't afraid of failing and the judgment that comes with it, there's no sorrow associated with public speaking. You wouldn't be afraid. But we attach failure, and with that comes judgment, and with that comes sorrow, so I'm afraid of public speaking. The unknown is the same. Sutures, poisoning, old age, all of that comes down to death. If there was no pain in death, would you be afraid? If there was no unknown with that experience, would you be afraid? See how we stay on the surface? But Vedanta is saying, think more about what you're afraid of. Because if you don't know the disease, you can't find the cure. You know the disease, the chances of you finding the cure is much more. And so this evening, today, we shift from symptoms to what is the source of these symptoms. Symptoms at the body level, uncomfortable. At the mind level, I project. At the intellectual level, I compromise. Symptoms. What is the source? It is these 3 fears. And Prince Arjuna goes through the same symptoms that we always go through. How succinctly Bhagavan Vedyasa describes Arjuna in chapter 1 of Gita. He says his mouth is parishushati. Our mouth gets dry from speaking. His is extremely dry. It says that he starts seeing omens, like someone suffering from vertigo or they're about to lose their balance. That's what he feels like. He is not stable in any sense. And it's not because it's hot outside, though it is hot in northern India. And it's not because there's actual omens there, like he has a problem with his eyes. Prince Arjuna is suffering from an identity crisis. He doesn't know who he is. This is why Lord Krishna doesn't teach him Dhanur Vidya, doesn't teach him how to shoot arrows or give him special weapons. He gives him Brahma Vidya. He teaches him who he is. He gives him self-knowledge. For all of the people who work in corporations, when you sign on, you're given a job title, and with your job title comes what? Job description. If you don't have a job title, you don't know what your job description is. He doesn't know who he is, so he doesn't know what his responsibilities are. Going in to this challenge, it was Yudhishthira who was shaken. And what's interesting about that, Yudhi Sthira means the one who's always firm in battle. But he's the one that says, what are we doing? Let's just leave Bharatavarsha. And Prince Arjuna catches him and says, no, this will go on forever. He initially goes in, I am on the side of Dharma. Then he falls, I'm on the side of the Pandavas. Then he falls more, I'm Arjuna. I'm not a husband, I'm not a brother, I'm not a father, I'm just Arjuna. So what should I do? Run. And Lord Krishna, thank God, God was in front of Prince Arjuna to stop him. He was the charioteer, so he couldn't go anywhere. In fact, in our tradition, what is shared, when you prostrate to one's guru, to Bhagwan, you should put one hand on top of their feet and one hand underneath their feet. Why on top? In case Bhagwan leaves you. Probably not going to happen. Why underneath? In case you leave Bhagwan. He won't let you leave him then. Bhagwan Krishna gives him self-knowledge. And in this self-knowledge, what he's sharing to him, you fear what is different from you. You only fear that which is different. Isn't it amazing every time we fear death, that experience is teaching us who we actually are? That our nature is Sat? Every time you're afraid of the unknown, it's dark outside, you don't know that person, you drive in another country, that experience is saying, hey, your nature is awareness. Every time we're sad. And I'll pause and highlight this experience for a moment. If I take my arm and start rubbing it on that podium hard, a matter of time before a piece of wood gets into my forearm. And automatically, this body is going to start fighting that splinter, that piece of wood, and push it out of my body, regardless of how deep it is. Because it's a foreigner. It's an alien in this ecosystem. White blood cells, red blood cells, all of that's coming. But the bones in my arm have been there for decades. And my body is not reacting to my bones because it's part of the ecosystem. It's my nature. When you're sad, don't you try to release that sadness as soon as possible? Some people do that through drinking. Some people do that through drugs. Some people do that through bullying. Some people do that through video games. Some people do that through being distracted. Some people do that through working. The workaholics. It's also escapism. And your intention is right, to escape from sorrow, but all of that escaping only adds to the sorrow. Today I had a private satsang with just the males in our youth camp. And Sheila had a private satsang with just the females. And one of the thoughts I was sharing with them was about yesterday. How, if you remember, I brought up the BMI chart yesterday, and then I got excited with my thoughts. I forgot about the BMI chart. So I made a note today that I should finish that thought. Animals live by instinct. They have intellects, but it's not developed. Humans live by intelligence. We have an intellect, And if you use it, then we have that capacity to start looking into the depths of living. An animal cannot be enlightened, humans can. And if you start subtracting the common variables, the purpose of the intellect is enlightenment. So today I shared with all of the males, a gauge of your strength or weakness is how extroverted and introverted you are. Extroverted people who don't stop talking, who don't stop communicating, who are not comfortable with themselves, it shows that they're scared, they're afraid of who they actually are. But people who are introverted, people who are inward looking, are those sensitive, intelligent people who know there's no joy in the combinations and permutations of the world. They know that joy is somewhere. It's inside, but they don't know where it is, but they know it's there. And I gave the example of my mother and father. My mother and father have had an expansive business. They've traveled so much. They have children, they have grandchildren, they have a Chinmay mission family, and now both of them are over 60, and they're living in a small room in Siddhabari. They've been used to traveling the world. Now they're stuck in that small room with sometimes hot water, sometimes cold water, not having the comforts that I have right now. And it shows to me, as a son, as a seeker, in their maturity, they realize that joy is not in the pursuits that they've pursued, but it's something within them. They're becoming more introvert, they're becoming more intelligent, they're becoming inward looking. That's strength. And every one of our experiences is teaching us the same. Know who you are. Identity crisis. Find out what your nature is. For anyone who's seen the movie Cool Runnings, solid movie. There's a scene where the Jamaican bobsledders are on the bobsled, and all of the other nations are laughing at them. They're bullying them. And one of the bobsledders says, "It seems like nobody likes us." And one of the bobsledders says, "It's because people are afraid of what's different." Isn't that what racism is? Sexism, ageism. I'm afraid of what's different than me. I spoke at a diversity conference a few months ago at an all-girls school in Pittsburgh. Many hundreds of students, their teachers, their parents, administrators, chatting away. I walk into the auditorium, dhoti, kurta, tilak. Everyone becomes silent, watching every step of mine. Who's that person? Is he speaking? Is he sitting? Where is he going? And then I stand behind the podium and I share with all of them. Whether you say anything or not, every single one of you is judging me right now because I look different. And I'm not bothered by it. I'm only asking you to think about how much we judge over differences. And you know what the source of these differences are? Our thinking, the mind. Avicharo kruto bandhaha. The source of bondage in our lives is avichara, not thinking. That's what binds me. Did you choose your gender? Did you choose your skin color? Did you choose your age? Then why do you take it personally when someone judges you on it? Did you make those choices? Ashtavakra walks into Raja Janaka's court, 8 crooked parts of his body, and the people there laugh at him. What does he do? He laughs louder at them. And Raja Janaka says, "Hey, young boy, this is an assembly of wise people. Why are you laughing?" "I'm laughing because all these wise people," imagine he said that in quotes, wise people, are laughing at what the Creator made. The Creator made his body, correct? Ashtavakra didn't choose to look like that. The Creator did. So when we judge someone, aren't we really judging the Creator? That's a pretty harsh way to think. This mind has come between Brahman, our nature, and this body. And this mind is so filled with thoughts that it weighs us down to the body. But when there's less and less thoughts, which really I'm saying is less and less judgment, it rises to our true nature. That's what's our favorite yogasana? Shavasana, right? 5 minutes of exercise, then 30 minutes of Shavasana. And then you splash water in your face. Oh, I'm sweating so much. What's our favorite part of the day? 9 o'clock when the discourse ends. But going to sleep. Why do you love Shavasana? Why do we love sleeping? Because there's less thoughts. Less body, more Brahman. Which is natural, comfortable, enjoyable to us. Our mind has taken that which is united, that which unites us, and broken it apart. Isn't it a sad state when we're more ready to criticize someone than compliment them? Think of the last reception you went to. Didn't you complain about that reception more than compliment the hard work of the people who organized it? The food was too spicy. The food wasn't spicy enough. Too many lights, too dark. That person is dressed too fancy. I should have been sitting right beside the bride and groom. We have this tendency, this propensity. We've taken what unites us and broken it, and then we fear it. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. We love that quote. We love tweeting it. We love writing it. We love making signs about it and putting it in our kitchen. But here we are, still living a life of fear. But that quote is so powerful and practical. If you have a fear thought, how are you going to be? You're going to be afraid. If you don't have a fear thought, then how are you going to be? Unafraid. There is nothing to fear but fear itself. As long as there's fear thoughts, you can't stop yourself from being afraid. It's not possible. But if you don't have fear thoughts, you can't be afraid. It's just a thought. What is everyone looking forward to this December? Star Wars. Already, previews and advertisements, everything is coming out. And there's a famous scene in Star Wars where Luke is sent into this abyss, this dark place, as part of his training. And Luke asks, what's going to be in that darkness? And what is the response? Whatever you bring with you. And who does he see in that darkness? Darth Vader. He brought Darth Vader with him. Darth Vader's not actually there. You take this to Inception. Who does Dominic bring with him everywhere he goes? Mal. Interesting, that's like the Sanskrit word mal. Mal is vasanas. Vasanas cause fear. The more vasanas I have, the more afraid I am. The less vasanas I have, the more fearless I am. His vasanas keep chasing him till at the end, he has to let go of his vasanas. And then he is free. Just a thought. And I have to share this because it's just what I do, and my wife complains about it all the time. But that's what husbands do, right? Sheila and I had gone to see the movie Paranormal Activity. It's a movie I'm not encouraging you to watch. Star Wars is fine, Inception is fine, not Paranormal Activity. And we go back home, and we both lie down, and I go to sleep, and she doesn't. Halfway through the night, she shakes me and says, "Are you awake?" I love these redundant statements. It's like people who say, honestly speaking, so everything that was said till then was dishonest, but now I insert honesty. So, yes, I'm now awake. I can't sleep. Why? I'm thinking about the movie. Chant Hanuman Chalisa. And I go back to sleep. The next morning I asked Sheila, so how did you sleep afterwards? And she said, fine. Now, how did that happen? Until Hanuman came into her mind, Hanumanji, she was thinking about the bad things in the movie. She thought I was a horror person that's going to hurt her. But all of a sudden, Hanumanji comes in. Bravery, courage, loyalty, dharma, everything we want. So, thoughts get reduced, quietude kicks in, we go to sleep. Just a thought. And as we learned yesterday, there is nothing, no article, no being, no circumstance that is intrinsically fearful. Yesterday, one of the people who spoke afterwards, he said, I loved the experience. Some people, as they were speaking, I could hear their voice was getting shaky. Some people despised it, some people loved it. Is public speaking fearful? Everyone's still saying, yes, please dispose of our names. It's not, it's how you think about public speaking. There's nothing intrinsically fearful. And I'm reminded of what Guruji had shared with us, going back to the fear of death. In the neighborhood over there, if someone dies, does it affect you? Just another death. But if someone in our family dies, it affects us greatly. Same experience, it's death. But to that person I've offered no thoughts, and to this person I've offered lots and lots and lots of thoughts. And Guruji takes it to an even more thoughtful level. He says, we actually don't fear death. So hear this out. We don't fear death, we fear detachment. What if we all died together with our stuff? Right? No one would be afraid. It's like traveling then. You get a fresh body, why not? Bring it on. But we fear the detachment of not being with that person, of not being with that thing. I don't know if you know, but in heaven, every male is 22 and a half years old. And every female is 16 and a half. And in heaven, no one grows old and no one dies. Who knows why I'm talking about that, but just thinking about if we all died together, then there's no fear. But if one of us dies, if I die, then there's fear. Mind games. Now, as we finish this section of our philosophy on the source of fear, we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we're thinking about? And Lord Krishna traces this down to only 2 subject matters that we think about. And though the answer should be Dharma and Brahma, which is the subject matters of the Veda, it's actually yoga and kshema. All you and I think about is yoga and kshema. I'd read somewhere that Adidas means all day I dream about soccer. We can change that to all day I dream about yoga and kshema. Yoga is procurement, kshema is preservation. What can I get? And then how do I keep it? What do I get? How do I keep it? That's all you and I think about. Grades, how do I get it? How do I maintain it? Security, good health, how do I get it? How do I protect it? That's it. Everything is a variation of that. I have a very unique uncle. I think all of us have a unique, interesting uncle. My Vivekji is a very opinionated person, which means everyone should know his opinion. And he was telling me, he went to a train station in Bharat. And as he walked into this train station, there was a sign that said, beware pickpocketers. And he was very happy to see that, because usually you don't see such signs in Bharat. So he made it his point to find the station manager to thank him, or her. So he puts in the effort to finally find the station manager, and goes and says, I'm really happy you put that sign outside. And that station manager has no idea what he's talking about. What sign are you talking about? So he says, I'll show you. So they both go outside and they look at the sign. And that station manager says, that's not our sign. And as they both got to talking about it, they realized the pickpocketers put it up. When you see that sign, what do you do with your hands? And they're watching who has money and who doesn't have money, right? Only if your wallet or purse or passport's there do you protect it. If you've got nothing, you just walk in. Yoga and kshema. You only have to have kshema if there's yoga, correct? And when yoga, meaning procurement, doesn't happen, when we don't get what we desire, what is our natural reaction? Anger. If kama doesn't come, who's coming? Krodha. How Lord Krishna gives so much emphasis to this in chapter 3. Prince Arjuna says, where do my enemies live? I'd asked a group of people this once, who are your enemies? And one person put their hand up. Mary, Deepak, Priya, and she lists all of these names. I said, no, those are not your enemies. Your enemies are Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. That is desire, anger, greed, delusion, arrogance, jealousy. Those are your enemies. Prince Arjuna says, where do these enemies live? And Lord Krishna says, Kama and Krodha. Because, Arjuna, you're not thinking. At the Vedanta course, Guruji continuously shared with us, more important than what to think is how to think. More important than what to think is how to think. And this is why for all of the youth in this camp, I'm very hard on you, and I emphasize discipline, because I feel our education systems only teach us what to think and not how to think. And I know this because as I gave you those 2 minutes, not a single youth put out a chair for you. All of the adults, all of the people who are older, you had to move your own chairs. And all of you should have been setting up those chairs, correct? Isn't that what you learned in your education system back in the day? How to think, how to serve others? That's the importance of Balavihara. You develop that sensitivity. Otherwise, you just go about living life selfishly and unhappily. How to think. Back in the day, people went to the Gurukul for at least 12 years. Now, people are forced to go to Balavihara, forced to go to Balavihara camps. 12 years they would go and learn how to be selfless. And then when they left, they were the best grahastas. They learned vanaprastha, they learned sannyasa. Now we keep breaking these social systems. I love Vedic culture, and I'll talk about it and fight for it in any context that I can. And it's all God's grace. I was born in a small city in Niagara Falls where half the people there are Italians. And it was God's grace who said, hey, I have something for you, son. And I love it. My last thought for this evening, as we think about yoga and kshema, what is it that you and I don't have? Think about that deeply. What don't you and I have? We have everything we need and everything we want. Yet, procure, 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 preserve, 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 and that peace floats away. But if we just go into that single thought, what don't you have? Look in the mirror tonight and ask yourself, what don't I have? And I promise you, there will be nothing significant that you can answer with. We have everything. So there's no reason for our thoughts to weigh us down to this body and live a life of fear. Oh.